I'd be willing to bet that a third of you with full suspension bikes are currently riding them with either worn, grindy, or just plain shot frame linkage bearings. Let's get you set up for a new season. Hey folks, we're back again with another video, and this is part of our bike rebuild series, and today we're going to be working on changing the frame linkage bearings. So a lot of people ignore their frame linkage bearings, especially on older bikes, because let's face it, it seems like an intimidating job having to take apart a frame and then remove bearings and put new bearings in. But folks, it's not a hard job. None of this is hard. Little time consuming, yes, but not hard. And reality is frame linkage bearings are very important to overall suspension performance. If we have shot bearings, right, or seized bearings even worse, that will absolutely impact small bump sensitivity because ultimately it won't rock, it won't move as intended. So we definitely want to pay some attention to it at least once a year. At a minimum, you go in there and you turn the bearing because bearings have very little movement to them and they sit in those same spots all year round, year after year after year. And whether it's moisture, impact will absolutely damage them. And ultimately, it's going to need to get fixed. Just because this is an older frame doesn't mean it doesn't need attention. It doesn't mean it's not worth any attention. We could get this frame to run just like it did when it was first made, all right? So let's get into the tools and parts needed for the job. To remove the bolts, we're going to need a 5mm for the shock bolts. We're going to need an 8 and a 10mm for the frame linkage bolts. We are going to need a torque wrench to torque it all back down later. We're going to need Loctite blue for the bolts. Now, when it comes to removing and inserting bearings, you're going to need bearing removal and insertion parts. So you're going to need drifts to put them in, and then you're going to need some kind of receivers to pull them out, right? I should have said that the other way, but ultimately, again, with these alt tools, I mean, I could build my own for many different options or bikes out there, or just bearings in general, in order to get them done. You can buy just individual ones that you need. And in a worst case scenario, you can literally make this stuff out of sockets, folks. All you need to do is make sure that you are contacting the inside of the race when pushing out and the outside of the race when pushing in. Never contact the inside of the race when pushing in, okay? So with that said, let's go into some parts we're going to need for the job. We're going to need bearings. So this is specific to a 2014 Niner r.i.p 9, which uses the same size bearings for all the linkages, 6803s, very common size, which is cool. Your frame is going to most likely be different, so you need to find that out before you order bearings. But when you go find bearings or order bearings, make sure you get ones that are either LLU, which means that the seal has 2 edge protectors that helps against moisture coming in and dirt coming in. I also use retaining compound, just a little bit of retaining compound. This is optional. I find that it does a great job at keeping the outer race contacted to the frame in order to, well, help with avoiding creaks down the road. Well, let's get into working on this frame. I love external cable routing on a rear triangle of a full suspension bike. Having to dangle frames off the cables as opposed to just cutting some zip ties, taking out 3 bolts, 1 on the derailleur, 2 in the brakes, and just letting those dangle on their own and removing the rear triangle, get the job done, is so much easier. But no matter which way you choose, first step is going to be to remove the shock. So in this case, I need a 5mm Allen. And we're going to take out this top bolt first. And on the other side at the bottom, we have bolt number 2. Hold on to your shock. Take out that bolt. Now be careful with it, remove it, and put it on the side. So as I mentioned before, I have the option. I could try and do this on the bike, or I could remove the entire rear triangle. Now I'm gonna remove the rear triangle so I could do this one, this one, this one on the bench where it's, well, just easier to record and easier to see. And the only one I'll have to do on the bike, I believe, unless it's in here, it might be in here, I'm not sure, or it's in the frame. Either it's in the frame, I got to do it on the stand, or I might be able to do it on the bench. So we're going to remove the whole triangle and the top pivot. And all I need to do is cut these zip ties. This is why I love external cable routing. Zip ties are cheap. 2, and that's it. Right? And then, since I already have the 5mm on me, take out my brake. And then just let it hang on the side, and then cut the zip ties on the brake cable, take the 5mm again and just remove the derailleur. Super easy. And now I could just let this hang on the side once I remove it. And that's it. First, we're going to remove the 2 top bolts over here. 8mm Allen key, take it. Oops. Got a good crack. Remove it. Now be careful when you take it out. There might be, chances are there's going to be a spacer or something on the other side. Not sure. We'll find out. Yep, definitely a spacer on the other side. That's not moving. And then we repeat the same to the other side. Then we take out the bolt. Watch it. Yep, there you go. So there's 2 spacers on the insides. One of them rolled down there. They just look like that. They're just regular spacers. And just let this hang down on the ground. Next, we take off this top bolt. We're going to need an 8mm on one side and a 10mm that's about that deep on the other side. So first find, there we go. I'm in on the other side. And then put your 8mm in and turn it until the whole thing comes out. Watch out that oh, turns out I had more. Come on. There we go. Now watch out this guy here. Just take it all and put it on the side. Now once again on the bottom chainstay bolt, it's going to be a 10mm on one side and an 8mm on the other one. Give it a good crack. Unscrew it all the way. Okay, that should be out. Remove this side first. And then, okay, this cap is obviously stuck. What we will do, come on, try our 10mm and let's give it a tap. Yep, there we go. Now hold on to the chainstay or else it'll fall. Now there's going to be 2 shims in here as well, for spacers. There we go. And there's our 2 spacers. There's our bolt. It's in good condition. Holy cow, that's completely rusted. Both of them are completely rusted out. So, oh wow, this one's shot. And for the last pivot over here, we're going to need a 10mm just on one side. Give it a good crack. Spin it around. Wow, that feels weird. Oh, wow. You're not going to believe what just happened. It just made my life a little bit easier, but it's probably going to make it harder. The bearing came out with this thing. Great. Oh, now I got to figure out a way to remove that bearing. It's seized on there, I bet. We'll figure it out. Then this thing here, I bet you seized. Yep. So again, grab a tool, put it inside, knock it out. It's coming out. Yep. Once again, probably jammed and seized inside the inner race. Knock it all the way out. This thing's definitely seized in there real well. Oh man, that bearing's rusted. What's going on here? Like this now? Oh, there we go. And we are out. So this thing, as you can see, is, oh, it's still stuck. Didn't come out of the spacer. So I should have a spacer. Yeah, this spacer's stuck in here too. That's funny. I got to get that spacer out, then I got to get that bearing out. Great. So I cleaned all the major parts, right? Cleaned them thoroughly. I don't want dirt falling into the seats after we take out and put in the bearings. We'll clean the seats once we're done taking out the bearings. Here's the rest of the parts. I had to put these parts in CLR because there's a lot of calcium buildup, which is the reason I'm hoping that bearing comes out just from the calcium buildup. There was a whole stack of it on the right side of the bearing or the inside of the bearing. So hopefully that will help me remove that bearing from that axle, or else I got to figure out a different way. I'm just letting these soak for now while I clean these parts over here. So this is easy enough. We just want to make sure, the trick with frames is make sure you have no dirt in between your connections. You want a clean, solid, greased connection. So make sure we clean all the Loctite off, old Loctite off the old bolts. We're going to apply new Loctite on it. All right. These over here, they look like they'll be easy to clean. They don't have, here in Michigan, we have 2 things. We have hard water and we have calcium chloride that gets poured on dirt roads, which a lot of our trails, you got to go through a dirt road to get to. And that wreaks havoc on everything. So CLR works real well Again, just clean your threads, clean everything. Now, one thing, if you can't get off some of this hard gunk with your hands, take a wire brush. We don't want anything in between the connections, right? That's just hard buildup. And ultimately, we need to remove it, or else bearings aren't going to sit properly and everything won't be mounted properly, which can create creaks. A great example is in the corner over here. There's calcium buildup. Get it out with a pick, or else the bearing won't sit on it. It'll be off by a bit, and that little bit, well, can create creaks. Again, this stuff doesn't have super high tolerances, but still has some sense of tolerances. Again, just like in this ring, all this white, that's calcium buildup. It won't sit properly, and that could cause us problems. Scrape it all off. See what I mean? Look how thick that one is. That one needs to be in the CLR even longer. As for removing this one, I actually cracked. There goes the bearing. Little bearing just cracked on me. Great, is that gonna make it harder or easier to remove now? Actually, that just might help me. I got lucky. I was gonna try and tap it out. Well, I don't know if I got lucky or not, actually. We're gonna find out. This is really corroded on there. Actually, this side's broken off. Yeah, I might get lucky. Hold on. Yeah, there we go. There's half of it. All right. I'm gonna luck this out. And there goes the other. Look at all that. Holy cow. That's all corrosion in there. CLR definitely helped, but we broke her free. Again, what I was gonna do was clamp only the bearing down and then try and tap it out, but when I clamped the bearing down, the whole bearing just popped. So one less thing. I put the bolt back into CLR so we could get the last of the calcium buildup and corrosion off of it, right? For now, let's remove a bearing. So I got my alt kit. I could press and remove and press bearings. All I need to do is find the proper pieces. So in this case, we want to take this one out, right? So the goal is to find a pusher that is the size of the inside. We want to push the inside race. We can't get to the outside race, right? So then I'm going to need an extension over here. Then what I can do, let's do it this way, make my life a little bit easier. All right, put that guy here. All right, so this will push it out just like that. Now, on the other side, we want, this is the receiver, and we want it to be bigger than the outside race, but we want it to sit on the metal. So I gotta give Niner credit over here. It's best to have to get a frame with flat surfaces for your bearings in order to be able to remove them. There's frames out there that don't have flat surfaces, which makes it a lot harder, folks. So this, they thought about it and they did a great job. So now this is the step, so I can lock it in place, right? Just like that. Then I will put my arm in it. I'll drop my arm, then I'll put it back on again. Let's spin it. Actually, let's just do it this way. That's the nice thing about this thing. There we go. Now we want to make sure that we are fairly centered on it, and let's see if I could push it out without, there we go. Ta-da! Look how rusted up that is. This one's actually moving at least, so that's good. There's two of them that weren't, one of them was seized. The one that I broke, that was just seized. The other ones, there's two other ones that are well, basically seized. This one moves. It's grindy as hell, but it moves. So now I'm going to grab another linkage, and I'm going to do the same thing. It's going to come out this side. Let's put in our, see, but I got to be careful here. I want to put the pusher in first, because that won't fit. And then I'll put the spacer, just like that. Then we could use these quick locks, just like that. Make sure it is centered, and once again, let's turn it, and done. There goes another one. Ta-da! And then once you get the hang of it, this goes by real quick. Now I can put this guy, because he will fit on the inside. Spacer. Quick lock. Make sure it's centered. Screw the quick lock down to get some tension on it. Oop. Make sure this guy's sitting on there good. And there we go. Done. This guy moves. this guy moves, the other two barely move at the bottom. It's the bottom ones that always take the biggest beating. So I'm going to do the rest of them. I don't have to record all of it. Basically, what you need is a good pusher and a receiver. The reality, folks, you could use sockets to do the same thing. These you could buy at a dollar store, at a hardware store for cheap. It's a 1/4 inch, or you could get a 3/8. Then you get 2 bolts. And you could use sockets the size of the inside race and a receiver bigger than the outside race. And one will pop into the other one. You're just going to use 2 wrenches to turn the bolts and you're done. You could pop them all out like that, all right? I'm sure this guy doesn't want to hear that, but this is a great set. I got to give him credit. He did a great job thinking of everything. Now that we removed all the bearings, we want to go into every seat and make sure that there is no corrosion or buildup in the corners and on the sides. We want to clean them best we can. We want those bearings to sit in there as evenly as possible. All right, so I would grab a pick, go in there first, see and feel it. This one's good. Let's take some alcohol. Let's get in there with our hands and clean all that gunk out. Scrape it out if you need. Put CLR on it. Let it sit for a bit. We definitely want those bearings to sit as evenly as possible. It will last the longest like that. So now we want to install the bearing. So for that, we're going to need drifts. Now you take your bearing and you find a drift you need a drift, I should say, that is basically the exact, a little bit smaller than the outside race, okay? We never want to push bearings from the inside race. You'll destroy it. Only from the outside race. So I found my drift. Now, if I take my drift and I put it on here, I'll probably need to bring this back a little bit, and I put it on here, right, it'll wobble. So now I need to find a spacer for the inside. There you go. There is my spacer. Now, to hold that spacer in so it doesn't flap around, because if I put it in, it'll sink. Well, it actually doesn't matter if it sinks. There we go. So the spacer's in, right? So now we're solid on the axle for the most part. Now I could put my bearing, but the problem is the bearing will wobble. That's where they have these spacers over here that fit on the inside of the bearing. So this way the bearing's solid, right? Now when I put it in, basically I have the option. I could try and torque it down from here or insert it from this side, but that'll potentially squeeze the linkage. So I want this side here to be the pressure point. So I'm just going to find, well, it should work. There we go, just like that, right? So, and then all I need to do is put in my nut, right? And then I'm ready to insert. But before I do that, let's remove the nut. Okay. Grab the bearing. Now what I do, I add a touch, one little dot of retaining compound. Anything in here? Oh, ooh, see, that's too much. If you see that, that's way too much. We do not want that much. So spread that around. I'm gonna take some off my finger. We just want a little bit of this stuff, and make sure you don't get on the sides. We just want it on the bearing. All right, very thin, thin, thin coat. Now I can put this on. Right, then I can put this through. Then I can screw on my nut. All right, let me get close. Now, as I get close, let's screw in from the other side, probably quicker since we're on camera. There we go. Now, here's where we need to be careful. We want to make sure that we are evenly inserted as possible. We do not want this thing to go in crooked. All right, so just take your time over here, folks. This is not hard. So look around. That is even. I feel pressure. Okay, I feel good pressure now. I'm going to need my 12 millimeter. And now there we go, insert. Now we're going to insert it until it hits bottom. Do not over tighten it. There's no need. Once it hits bottom, it'll stop right there. And then you just go finger tight and we are done. And now we can remove it. And come on. our first bearing is in. And now we repeat the process for the other 7 bearings in this case. Okay, just a dab. Do not put too much. See, again, it's a little too much. Hold a little big. Make sure you don't get it on the sides. You only want it on the surface. One thin film. You'll feel it. It's sticky. It's very sticky. And then immediately clean your fingers when you're done with it and put it. There we go. Make sure the spacer sits. Make sure the spacer's in. Come on. There we go. Again, clean your fingers of the retaining compound. Now, once again, I'm going to take this. We're going to put inside. Oops. Put that here. Let's take our nut. Screw it down. We want to make sure our bearing is nice and even all the way around before pressing it in. Just take your time over here, folks. This is not hard. Just make sure it's as even as you could get it. All right, so that is even. I feel pressure. There we go. Now again, let's grab my 12 and let's screw this or push this in. There we go. Tighter fit on the other one, that's for sure. And again, don't over crank it, just a little bit. It's going to hit bottom, you'll know it, and then pull it back. And we are done with this linkage. All I need to do is finish the other 6. It's probably going to take me about 5 minutes, and I'll be back. Now that we're done installing the bearings, we want to make sure the mounting points are clean inside, right? Remember before we had corrosion, so go in there with a brush and alcohol and clean it real well. Get everything out of there. We want a nice tight fit without extreme force to get it in there. And we're ready to install it back on the bike. So the way this is going to work, we have 2 spacers for the insides of every linkage, right? And then we put the bolts. What we need is Loctite glue to put on the bolts, and we are going to need a heavy-duty grease. We're not going to kill it with grease, but we are going to put it in certain locations in order to help us out, right? So as far as Loctite, we just want to put a little bit at the tip of the threads, just like that. Just surround the threads on top, and then it'll pull it down. In fact, I'm going to do that ahead of time on all the bolts, except for the shock bolts. I'll do that later. So I don't have to worry about it. Should make my life a little bit quicker and easier. Plus these will sink into their threads nicely by the time I use them, right? Just make sure. These I'll do later. So, and as far as grease, again, we're just going to be putting a thin coat on the axles, right? Particularly, we don't want to go too crazy with the grease, but put a thin coat on the axles. And then we'll just put a thin coat on the insides of this so we could stick it just like that on the insides, and this will make our life easier. It'll stay there when we go to put everything together, okay? So we're gonna start from the bottom. Now, I have the spacers on the inside. Again, put grease on the inside of them so they can stick to make your life a little bit easier as we put them in, because they're gonna wanna fall out, right? These things are always gonna be a little bit tricky. So just trying to line them good, hold on to them with your hands, and then put them in just like that. Next, we are gonna put in this part over here, right? Now, this is directional. It's got like, it's almost like a hexagon basically. So let's bring this linkage up, and the screw here was facing the 11 o'clock position somewhere over there. So we're gonna sort of just wiggle it in there. There we go, just like that, okay? Now we have grease on this axle. We have grease on this axle. We have our Loctite, and we're gonna use our 10 millimeter. Make sure you get it in its spot and go to the rear. And don't push it out and screw it in. I know you can't see this, but it's pretty easy to understand. I'm going to screw it in all the way back. Look how nicely everything slipped in, by the way. I don't know if you noticed that. So then we're going to take our ratchet first and bring it down by hand. And then we're going to take our torque wrench, 15 Newton meters preset. Yep, 15 Newton meters. Make sure you get it inside, and there we go. Done. Look at that. no side to side. Nice move. This is way better than before, guys. Before, I had to force it into position, believe it or not. This is sweet. So much nicer. Let's continue. Next, we connect the bottom part of the rear triangle. Now, make sure you orient it the right way, right? The derailleur hanger stays to the drive side of the bike. Now, again, I got the spacers inside. They're greased so they could stick, lightly greased, not heavily greased, right? And then hold on to them as we slip it in. All right, we're covered. Now, I have the nut. We're going to put it on one side here. Well, it'd be nice if I could actually get it. There we go. And then we have our grease nut, our greased bolt with the Loctite on it. Okay. Then we grab our 10 millimeter. Hold on to it. And we're going to need the 8 millimeter on the other side. Screw it in by hand first. Let's grab the 8 millimeter now. Okay, and now we torque it. Again, 15 Newton meters. Torque wrench. Oops. Okay. And that's our 15 Newton meters. Remember, this one we have to knock up, both of these we have to knock out real hard. Look how nice smooth they flow now. This is awesome. Next, we connect the top. For the top, we're going to connect the rocker link first. Short side goes to the front, long side goes to the back. Have my spacers. Again, I greased them a little bit so they could stick on them. Hold on to them as we put this in. There we go. And then once again, we're going to take our greased nut, slide that one in. Look how nice that went in. Take our greased and Loctited bolt, put on the other side. Once again, 10 millimeter and 8 millimeter. And then when we can't do any more, once again, 15 Newton meters with the torque wrench. Connect it. I said connect it. And then on 15. Sweet. Next, we installed the upper linkage over here in the rear triangle. Again, I have my spacers greased so they could stick. Let's put them in. I also have my nut Loctited, grease it, right? So let's put this in. And then this is just the nut. This screws into the frame. Just make sure you get it. There we go, and we have it. Oh, great. All right, make my life a little bit easier over here. That is one. Then we take the torque wrench, again, 15 Newton meters. And repeat on the other side. Now let's test it. Wow, look how much nicer that is. That's so smooth. Before, I needed force. 2, it would grind. It would, like, you could feel it in your hands that it would skip. It was like it was in bad shape before, to say the least, but you guys saw the corrosion over here that was causing the problem, right? So it's always gonna be the lower links. Now let's put on the shock. Now I already did the bottom of the shock because it's on the other side of the bike. So for the top part of the shock, it's the exact same thing. We're gonna take our bolt, we're gonna put Loctite on it, right? And then line it up, slip it through by hand first. Grab your 5 millimeter. Wish I had my longer one. I got it sitting on the counter. I'm just too lazy to go get it. Screw it in till you can't anymore. And then torque wrench. This one over here, 12 Newton meters for both shock bolts. It's written on there, actually. It's not like I'm making it up, so. Okay, take it and 12.31. To finish it up, first I'm gonna grab the derailleur since I'm on the drive side. We're gonna put it in, make sure that this notch here sits on top of this hook over here, right? When we put it in, 5 millimeter Allen. Screw it in. Come on. All right, push it down. And then I do 10 Newton meters. Other people do different. 10's never failed me. Done. To cable it, grab our zip tie. Now the way I insert my zip ties is that when I pull it, I want this thick part to end up in the back of the bike. So put the back of the thick part, this part here, to stick towards you. Put the front of the zip tie in there, right? And pass it through. And you'll notice that when we zip it, the thick part's not going to go towards the back. So let's do it for each one. Again, make sure this part's facing you. Damn it. In a weird position here. Okay, and then the last one more time. These have seats in them. Make sure that the cable sits in a seat, right? Before we start pulling down. All right, just like that. So again, and then when you end it, pull it as much as you can towards the back of the bike. Just like that. And just like that. There we go. Now give it some slack so you have a nice curve over here. And we are good. Grab your plier. These are nice. They have a flat edge so you could cut right at the, oh, this one's not all the way tight. I can't, my hands are slippery. I'm gonna get that one later. But basically the way this works, this is nice because it cuts right at the edge. So you don't have any sharp parts sticking out, right? So, yep, that one's not moving, so we are good there. There we go, nice and smooth. Rear brake, we take it, go inside the frame, put it on its mount, take our bolts. Yeah, it's one of those crazy ones. Okay, put them in. Now this one here, we don't have to tighten all the way because when we put the rear wheel in, we're gonna have to set the caliper to the rotor, right? But I'm just gonna screw this in for now. For the cables, the same thing. Again, fat part sticking up. Put the point in. Bring it around. Do the other one. Fat part sticking up. Put it in. And then pull it, hold it tight, pull it to the back, just like that, as tight as you can. Make sure it's sitting in its seat. That little mount has a seat for the cable, right? So just like that. And once again, I cut them. Ta-da! And there you have it, folks. We just finished fully servicing the bearings on the frame linkage of a 2014 Niner r.i.p 9 frame. Again, this is not a hard job, folks. Some frames definitely make it more difficult based off the frame designs. Niner, for the most part, kept these flat. There was only 2 of them that weren't as flat. I wish all designers would make anything with a bearing to have a perfectly flat surface around it so you could press in and take out at any time, right? So anybody could do it. Again, there's a lot of people out there riding with new and older bikes, especially, whose bearings are shot. You saw it on this one. It's never been changed, I bet. This bike is going to ride so much nicer. It's going to be quieter. Everything about it is going to be a plus. Reality is this, folks. All you have to do is once a year, just take out these bolts, clean everything inside, give it a grease where it needs grease, and that's it. And chances are your bearings are going to last a lot longer because usually the bottom ones, it's impacted moisture. The top ones is going to be moisture that destroys the bearings, okay? There's not much to it. And again, why I love externally routed rear triangles, because I have the option to remove this, do it on a table where it's a lot easier as opposed to do it on a bike and having the entire weight of a rear triangle dangling on cables, or cut the cables in order to be able to remove the rear triangle, which to me, that's just unacceptable. Internal rear triangle cabling needs to go, all right? So, folks, with that being said, if you like this video, please, man, click that like button, click that subscribe button to see more videos, click that bell button, ding, 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 in order to get notified when new videos get released, and more videos like this are coming. If you want to see a couple of videos right now, these 2 over here might be of interest, and until the next time, I hope all's well with all of you, and we will be talking to you soon. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.